Well, here we are again. Patrick and Ashley, we just had, I just met her significant other, Casey, and Frankie, the 3-year-old. And they went home because he says it might be a little too much for the class 3-year-olds because they're raw energy. But that's so beautiful to watch a child and how much energy they have. And we have that same energy if we'd unblock the, but I go at a little different pace and I'm learning that. I'm learning slow down to the speed of life. That there's, last week we talked about the 10 most things that you held sacred in the class. It's more of a values clarification because oftentimes we forget what our values are. And before I get too started, forgot to smudge. I'm gonna light a little sage here. Kind of clear the room, clear ourselves of the traffic getting here. The sage removes negative energy, and we burn a little sweetgrass to call in the positive. So the sage is your out breath. I let go, I release. I didn't quit drinking, I surrendered. So that's letting go absolutely of self-defeating beliefs and practicing the 12 steps, which since I'm over 50 years now without a drink of alcohol, I kind of weave the 12 steps into the class. It used to be, when I teach these classes, it would be teachings of the South, teachings of the North, teachings of the West. I didn't involve the 12 steps. But I took my little girl when she's about, she has a beautiful voice. And I took her to this choir so she could sing in this choir. And she actually was in a lot of musicals, has a fantastic voice, just like her mother. And she's no longer, I did a daggone good job, but I went over to the Tabor space where that choir practiced. And I saw, well, they practiced about 2 hours. So what else they got going on here? And I looked on the Tabor space is a space owned by the Presbyterian Church, and they host a lot of 12-step meetings. And I noticed there was a 11-step meditation meeting going on at the same time. So I said, great, I'll just go to that meeting rather than sitting in the car waiting for it to get out. So I went to the meeting. I attended that for about a year. Basically, it's burn a little sweetgrass now. Since we got rid of I let go of the old and I call in the new breath, the new way of seeing things, like the morning. So sometimes I forget this, but when I don't, like when I make a drum, I don't make it out of my compulsions or when I'm feeling, I'm not centered. So these gifts of the in-between, since we're going from Groundhog Day into my anniversary is Friday, when I hand fasted my wife, be the 4th year married to Mandy, who's with her grandkids over in London. trying to help her Aries daughters and her Scorpio son. And I asked her if she wanted to renew our vows. I hadn't heard from her, but I'm sure she does. Anyway, she's been with me for 17 years, and which comes up to the values of what do I hold sacred. What do you hold sacred? That was the home play, homework, home play. And it's for those that weren't able to come. Each class is like, you never step in the same river twice, so each class has got to be complete, like one day at a time. I can only stay sober in the present moment. And addictions, whether it be drugs, alcohol, whatever your work, gambling. That's a big, with the Super Bowl. I didn't watch the Super Bowl either. I was real proud of myself. Because I have on my home page of my website that competition is the thing that separates business from spirituality. So how can I have spirit in my business and make that connection between the North, which is the Father, God the Father. In recovery, they say it's God as you understand God. So it doesn't have to be this guy in the sky that's looking down on us and judging us. So I would say God as you understand God, and our great spirit, the way that the natives like to say it. It's Father Sky, Mother Earth, and Mother Earth is the drum. I was playing the drums. The ones that are really in tune now are the bear drums. So I got 2 bear drums over there. And I used to have on Wednesday nights the drumming circles. And the flute, this is the male. This is the male part. But back to our values, what do you hold sacred? Just make a list, and it might change next week. Your values, some of them are constant. I'll go first. I think I got my list here somewhere. I can tell you without looking at the list, because I've done this class for 20 years. What I value is loyalty. That would be something I really highly prize. Honesty, openness, integrity, humor, persistence. That's, to me, each day, soak hides, make drums, chop wood, carry water was the book that I read. So it's every day we make sure that our actions are aligned with our values. What do we hold sacred? And money is never in that top 10. Now, after 20 years, what do you value? I'd like to hear from my friend Leslie about what did she come up with?
I had things that I hold sacred. I thought, my body and the things that kind of, my physical boundaries, my time with my family, my spiritual practices. I guess
spirituality.
Spirituality. My commitments and promises that I make.
Beautiful.
Learning is one. I wrote them down. everything.
Yay.
I couldn't, it's fun. Let's see.
It'll change.
Oh yeah, my art practice, my home. Yeah, so it all had to do with sort of like my physical
Yeah.
attachments in the world. My relationships.
That's the earth. As we walk around the wheel and learn the gifts of each one of these directions. I want to make sure that this is because I noticed when I redid it and I put this closer, then the volume went way up. So try to keep it consistent this time, learning my mistakes. So how do we take care of ourselves, mind, body, spirit, and soul? And usually in the church you don't hear the soul part. You hear the Trinity, Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Or they kind of eliminate the yin. In the medicine wheel, it's the yang is the winter to the spring. That's your right side, or in my right side, because my predominant hand is right. I had a woman come in the store today that was dressed like in yellow, and she said she does blessings to houses that have spirits in them. We had a great conversation how she does that. I used to have 6 native people living in my basement. I called them the Ghostbusters. Somebody'd call and say, there's a spirit in this house. You got to know anybody or any shaman that can come and get rid of the negative energy in this house. We had a wonderful conversation about how science does not acknowledge mystery. So my left side is the feminine, would be the yang or the yin. And in the medicine wheel, the yin is the earth, all the Taurus, the Capricorns, and the Virgos. That's the earth signs. They're me, my money, my house, my this, my that. And Taurus is another earth sign. That's my opposite. Virgo's opposite is Aquarius. So it's I think, Virgo, earth, no, water, it would be Pisces. Pisces is the water sign. So that's the 12th house. The fish is a symbol of the water. I'm a double water sign, so I have to force myself to sip water. Being an alcoholic, I want to gulp it all down. And for me to slow down, just to go at my pace and not try to hurry up. And my codependent self, I got to hurry up and take care of everybody else. I got all my orders out today, and that's like the Gestalt. Do it one day at a time, and it's simple. I used to sell stocks, and or in grad school, I would not study because I wasn't interested in half of what they were teaching. I wasn't ripe yet. So
Someone's here.
how do we get them on?
Got him in.
There's a Zoom user. Wonder who it is. Welcome.
Oh, it's Casey.
All right. Wonderful. We have Casey here. Well, Casey, I showed him the store. We went down there, had to close the stores because it's after 6. We only have 30 minutes till this class starts, so I was preparing. Took Casey down, Casey and Frankie, and Casey put the new lights in my fixture, but I couldn't do it. I was so grateful because I didn't have any light down there. It's hard for me to see. So this is an old house to live in, 1894, and it's got spirits in it. But we've done a lot of prayers, a lot of healing circles in this room. We've had some of the great healers all over the world come here. Don Alejandro came here, and back when I was practicing clean and sober, and he did a ayahuasca ceremony here that I didn't participate in because I wasn't ready to do that. I didn't trust myself. We've had Martin High Bear come to this place. We've had Grandmother River, a Cherokee grandmother, bless this place. So it's had a lot of blessings. This house was blessed by a woman. My store, when I opened it, I got too big for my britches. It was working real well, so I thought, I bet if I had a bigger space, I could make more money. That was a big mistake. So I had 7 employees, and I was the only one making drums. But we had a great community. Everybody loved it. We had a gallery. We had a place over on Sandy, 28th and Sandy. And the numerologist said that's the worst place in the world you can choose those numbers to do spiritual work. So I was there about 6 months, and there was a topless shoe shine place open next door. Wasn't exactly the neighborhood that I was supposed to be in, but we were there about, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years before I didn't have enough money to pay my employees, and I couldn't pay the payroll taxes. So I sat down and said, Creator, I can't do this anymore. What do I do? And he says, well, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So you're going to give up? No, I'll just go to the landlord and say I can't pay my rent. And it was a Greek man that I was renting that place from. And I said, John, I can't pay you, but I'd love for you to let me out of that lease because I can't afford to be here anymore. And he let me out of it because I went to him. If I'd have cowered away, I came back here and began to work where it was working. And so I learned that lesson that bigger is not better. To stay right size is like I had my health check, and I don't have any drugs. I don't use any. I've got insurance because you almost have to have insurance. Car insurance, homeowners insurance. They're in the business of not paying. So I think my grandpa was my hero. My grandpa taught me how to fish, and he was a native man, and he taught me how to hunt. Bought me my first BB gun, back in the 40s when I was growing up. I was born in 1940, the year of the dragon. So this is the year of the dragon, 2025. There's a lot of changes happen. And this is an exciting time to be alive, really, because but I always start with gratitude. Like if I say, what have I got to be grateful for? I know we talked about the 4 addictions. The first one's the addiction to what's not working. So if it works, don't try to fix it. I didn't learn that lesson until I moved over there and decided that didn't work. But to come back here and not give up. Because Spirit told me to follow the drum. And I learned the lesson that bigger is not better. I don't know if we talked about the 3 spells. The 3 spells we have to break. The first one's there's not enough. If you ask people, would you like to play? Now, Frankie would love to play because he's 3 years old. And play is defined as having no agenda. So he was running around exploring the place. He has a raw energy. We have people come in my drum store and they pick up a drum and they go poop, 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 and they're not breathing. I noticed that being a therapist, a Gestalt therapist, which is the therapy I chose in grad school, because it was very much like the 12 steps. It's a how and now therapy. So in recovery, there's how it works, not why it works, but how it works. How's your program working? And Ashley and I both are in 12-step programs, or practice the 12 steps. I think that gives you a great foundation to go onto the red road and to realize that the Chicana, which is, do you know how to get,
I'll share your screen.
yeah, to my, there's a class called, to my photos, and then it's, there's a file called Red Road Class. I wonder if we can find that. There it is. Oh, there's the one I want. Yay, okay. So these are the Incan, or the Quechua. This is South American teachings. This is the Southern Cross. And you notice there's 12 aspects to the Chicana with a hole in the center. And that hole represented Cusco, Peru. And to the south was Machu Picchu. And to the north was the Sacred Valley of the Kings. So I love this teaching because the first step is love. We're spiritual beings in a human experience. So we come from spirit. We're blessed. We are the Christos. The Christ is not outside of you, it's inside of you. That's what he taught us. I am the way, the truth, and the light. And when we complete our own hoops and stay in our own hoops, which is a great drum term, the frame or the hoop. And I love this because it has all the symbols in it, the triangle, the circle, the square. So the second step is trust. Well, think of that. Who do you trust? Do you trust yourself? The E pluribus unum, what is it? In God we trust. But separating spirituality from religion is the job of the yin. So the yin is my left side, which would be one that I'm using more, because when I draw, I use both hands. So I'm learning to left with the left. I go to the left when I write journals. So I have one line going to the right, another one going to the left. It's called mirror writing, and I learned that from Leonardo da Vinci. He had developed, he was a genius, and I loved his art. And anyway, the trust is the lubricant that's going to heal this planet. Who do you trust? And trust is lubricant, it's the water. So the water is very healing, especially the earth signs. So I start my morning in the hot tub, and I love that. And because I sing songs, or songs start singing me, and I don't chase them, I don't perform them. But my last name is Pinson, which means little bird. So I love to sing. So love, trust, and connection. That means who you're making contact with. Without touch, the children die. So when COVID hit, we kind of went out of touch. And so the first 3 steps we talked last week about the recovery are I can't, spirit can, so I think I'll turn my life over to spirit. Or there's 2 things you need to know about spirit. One, there is one and you're not, because that's false pride. False pride is the facade, the face we build. But connection feels good, or how are you in touch? Connect. So those first 3 steps are very similar to the 12 steps of AA. The 4th step is acknowledgement. And that's a really important lesson. Acknowledge I and thou. The namaste in me honors the namaste in you, the Christ in you. And to see the beauty in people rather than their defects. The addiction to what's not working, well, you ask somebody how they are and they say, not bad. We look at what we don't want rather than what we have. So gratitude is, start your morning every morning with gratitude is what blessings have you received? What mercies have you received? So you start your day as a child. Like we wake up, we're reborn every morning. A lot of the native cultures say the dream time is the real time, and this is the Maya when we're awake. So we go back into the dream tonight, and the spirits speak to us in the dream, our ancestors. That's when we connect to the ancient ones. They say 7 generations back. So the protection is I wear a red string around my left arm, which is in Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism. It keeps away the evil eye. People give you the evil eye, so you have to protect yourself. Women will often wear belly guards, which are abalone discs around their bellies, wrapped with red string. And the native men often have brass belt buckles. It does the same thing. It reflects back. If somebody's sending you bad medicine, you can return it. That's more of the West. We're sitting in the West looking at the East in this class. Protection, that's really important. Is how do we protect ourselves from all the spam? And like I get email, so many spams. It's really hard to discern what's real and what's not. So I have my computer whiz buddy. I ask him if I don't know. It's like in high school, everybody be afraid to ask a question because they look like they're stupid. But one person would have the courage to ask the question, and everybody just loved it because they didn't ask it. So how do we protect ourselves? And the next step is awareness. That's like the cat. That's the female. Awareness is, they say awareness without action creates new guilt. That's one of Rollo May's great quotes. So if you're like, I preferred to believe that when I was down on Skid Row that I was going to write a book on my experiences. And I went to my first AA meeting and it ruined my damn drinking. Because I said, these people look pretty happy, but I went in there and argued with them. You don't have the only way to stay sober. I said, well, no, we don't claim to. I said, I hope you find a way, but we found a way if you're interested. So I argue with them and argue for my rights to drink. But awareness is a really important thing. The sort of, in AA they call it pause power. If you're agitated, pause. Because it's very easy to get in that reactive mode where you're not responding, you're reacting. So that's fight or flight. I either run or I fight. And we fight everything in this culture. My God, you fight cancer, fight wars, you fight hurricanes. She lost her battle with cancer. Why are we fighting everything? I mean, the language, be impeccable in your word. That's another great tool for your of a Toltec teaching. Always do your best. Be impeccable with your word. Don't say you're going to do something until you've thought it out. It's okay to say. Let me chew on that for a minute. Let me think about it. Let me process it. That's what the teeth are for, is processing. So that's called the descent. Joseph Campbell's Man of 1,000 Faces says first we go down to hit bottom, and then from there we can build our way back up, which is the other side of the Shekinah. So the animals associated with the north is the hummingbird, which came to me this morning, and Mandy would bring all the hummingbirds here, but she taught me how to take care of plants, so I'm keeping plants alive. That's a miracle. I've never been able to keep a plant alive. But I study plant intelligence, and they say plants have an intelligence about 10,000 times greater than humans. So a lot of women are very connected to the earth. That's Gaia. That's a mother that brings forth the beauty. So if you look at the next step, happiness, what a concept. We are sure our Creator wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. That's one of the promises of the 12 steps. So this ascent, passion, that's the fire. All the Aries and the Sagittarius and the fire signs, the Leo, like I married a fire sign, but she's on the cusp of Cancer, so she's got enough water. Beautiful, beautiful woman. And she's taught me so much. Taught me how to love myself. So if you're in a committed monogamous relationship, that means to your own self be true. And walking around this wheel by yourself first, and then you can walk around with a partner. And it's beautiful that Casey came, and they're raising a 3-year-old. That's beautiful. So being an uncle, I don't have any grandchildren to deck on. I got 3 kids, and none of them had any offspring. So I love it when Frankie comes in. But they're raw energy. And the passion, what's that next one there?
Passion and expression.
What expression? That means, how are you creating? What are you creating in your life? Your hands. That's the hands and the heart. Like I make drums. And today I made rattles. And I sell those. And I'm the only one making them right now. When Mandy comes, she's a whirlwind. She sews beater heads and she knows how to sew. And So the fire is how are you expressing yourself? Creating with your hands rather than outsourcing to a cheaper place that can do it cheaper. So I'm so grateful that I'm now able to get cedar hoops, yellow cedar, Alaskan yellow cedar, which is what I started with. And then we went to Port Orford cedar, but that Cedar Mountain has taught me how to use my hands because I was using my head all the time. So the next step is responsibility. What is responsibility? Some people say, I got a lot of responsibilities. But being able to respond is the source of that word. If the hand reaches out, we're able to respond. It doesn't mean we're going to respond. It means we're able to respond. We have to discern. So my sponsor told me when I finally gave up and says, I don't know how to stay sober, I need help. And I reached out and he says, well, you go to 90 meetings in 90 days and I'll come back and see me. He had something I wanted. He was a Catholic man, went to Mass every morning at 7 a.m., Huntington, West Virginia. And he taught me, he'd take me out on 12-step calls because he was in charge of the crisis line. And he'd take me out and I said, I don't have anything to give these people. I've only been sober a week. And he said, tell them what it's like to be sober a week. He had 7 years at the time. So I'd go out and say, okay. So I learned a lot from him, not by his words, but his integrity. And I was able to, when I moved out to Portland, the second time, I was able to write him a letter and say, you know what, you saved my life and I love you so much and I want to appreciate you and all the gifts you gave me. And had he died and I not expressed that, I would have felt real cheated. So being responsible means I'm able to respond. Productivity, it means what are you producing? It's the work part. Because I feel good when I'm work, play, love, and support. That's the balance. That's the AA's for a balanced life. Dr. Bob said you spend it equally in work, play, love, and support. So the earth is your support. The sky is your inspiration. The west is your emotions. And the east is your passion. It's the fire. So and it comes back to truth, the last one in presence, like being in the moment, that realizing in the native way there's nowhere to get to. The point of power is always right now. And this is the cycle of a breath, the yin yang, and her perfect balance. That means I'm not working too hard, I'm not playing too hard, it's balance. I've got good friends and good support. And I've got prayer and meditation in my life, and that's the north. So this is a beautiful symbol here. I guess we could take that off. Let's see what else we got on there. Red Road class. Oh yeah. So some of these other ones like that go to any of those. We'll be covering. Well, that's another interpretation of the circle. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read that from here. Next one. These are all beautiful. Oh, what's that say?
Summary chart gifts of the 4 directions. North.
North. Okay. So this is a gift of the the winter that we're in right now, going towards the spring, which is the spring equinox. So out at my 20 acres in Carson, we built a sweat lodge. But I walked that land for 2 years before I knew where to place it, because I was trying to reclaim my feminine, my yin aspect of balance, because I felt like I was a dreamer and a doer, which is the north with males. I like to follow my dreams. I kept a dream journal and I started writing down my dreams. And that's the first thing the natives do. A lot of the tribes, the first thing they share is their dream. What the spirits have to tell you last night. In West Virginia, they don't ask you, how are you? They say, what's learning you? So what are you learning? It's so interesting. People come in and say, how are you today? Not that they're interested, that's because if you start telling them how you really are, they could care less. So that's discernment. The gifts of the North is the mind. The mind is part of the buffalo, the knowledge, and it's a very powerful lesson. We come from the winter solstice, and we're moving towards the summer solstice, and by way of the spring equinox and the fall equinox. Those are the four aspects of the medicine wheel. So in the North, when we make our prayers, we ask for one of these gifts of these directions. The North is where we came from. Like, what are you planting? What are you planting? What are you planting that's we're gathering the seeds of change. You don't change the inside, you put the person together and the world will fall in place. It reminds me of a story about, I heard in an AA meeting, it said, this man come home from a hard day work and his little 3-year-old came, Daddy, let's go play. And he said, well, I'd like to read the paper first, honey. Why don't you come back in about 10 minutes and I'll play with you. So about 30 seconds less, he comes running back. You ready? No, wait. Wait till I read the paper and then I'll play with you. So he comes back a few seconds later and says, are you ready? So he's reading this magazine, and there's a picture of the globe on it. So he tears that page out and rips it up, and he says, here, you put this together and I'll go outside and play with you. He figured that'll get him, that'll give me some time to kind of relax from work and make an entry back home. Well, about 3 minutes later, the little kid comes back and he taped all that globe together. And the man says, how in the world did you do that? He said, well, on the other side of that page was a man, and all I did was put the man together and the world fell in place. So that's put the person together. Rather than trying to change on the outside, we have to change on the inside. So about the only thing I have control over is my attitude. And so in recovery, you say you develop an attitude of gratitude and start your day with new eyes, not with yesterday or with the alarm clock saying, oh, I gotta go to work, So the committee kicks on. That's another AA thing I heard. Bob Earl says, every morning I wake up and the committee wakes up and says, oh, get up, go, you got to do this, you got to do that. And so these gifts are not something that they're aspirations, because perfectionism is another one of the four addictions. if we can't do it perfect, we're not going to even try. So a little kid, when they learn how to walk, they fall down about 100,000 times. But they have this innate drive to actualize their potential. And then and when you get to my age, you recede. And then you go back into the dream. And the more of the karma we can take care of here, which means last week we talked about projection being in the gestalt of projection is I hate in you the qualities I hate in me. And the second one I'd like to talk about is of the three is introjection. What is introjection? It's what are you eating, and what's eating you, and what an introjected value is something your church told you, or your teachers told you, or your parents told you that you should do. That's an introjected value. And children have no teeth until they start teething, and but they're very gullible. So I used to throw my little girl up when she's about 1 and catch her, and she just laughed. She just trusted me with her whole heart. It was so beautiful to be childlike like that, and to realize that the gifts of the East that we're moving towards is all the gifts of the child. So every morning we wake up. That's interesting. We don't wake down. But sometimes if you've had a rough night, the only thing that gets you through it is this too will pass. Like I was telling Ashley about night before last, I couldn't sleep. And I had this ache in my back, and I said, oh my God, I wanted to awfulize it. And awfulizing is you take a possibility, you turn it into a probability, and then pretty soon it's inevitable. So that's another back to the addiction to what's not working in your life. You're not looking at your blessings, you're looking at what's not working. The second one of those addictions is perfectionism, which keeps us a lot of times from taking a risk. So that's the alcohol. That's if I drank a little alcohol, I could take those risks. But that turned on me. So I'm so grateful that I'm alcohol free. And I had 12 years of daily AA meetings, sometimes 3 meetings a week or day. And I had those 12 steps drilled into my little head. And so I live my life that way. And I help people through my store. That's my ministry, is the Cedar Mountain store. And all the products down there were made by Mandy and me. She makes the rattles, I make the drums, I make the rattles. I taught her how to make everything she makes, and she makes them better than I do now. So, but I still make the drums, and I love it. But I'm 84, and I know if I'm going to pass this legacy on of a new paradigm of a business that can have spirituality in it, and that would be the Heartspace Foundation is my dream for Carson. Like the church always has their churches in the city, and then their retreat centers, like the Alton Collins Retreat Center is part of the Methodist Church. The Presbyterians have Manuka, which is up on the gorge, the Columbia River Gorge. That's where they do workshops. I've done many workshops up at Manuka and Mount Shasta. Mount Hood is where I did my Amblecha, my vision quests. And I had worked these steps, and that's great preparation for going on the hill. That's what Moses did. He went on the hill. That's what Grandfather Martin Highbear said. What do you think Moses went up there for? He brought down He says, that was a humblecha, that was a vision quest. And he brought down the thou shalt nots, the tablets. So there's 4 places we go to heal our soul. One's the mountain. So Cedar Mountain Drums, that's the name that I came up with because I was making drums out of cedar, and cedar tree out here in the Northwest, they smudge with cedar. They drink cedar tea when they're ailing. And the cedar tree is the healing tree. So we're moving from the north, which is the dream, and what are we planting? And the sacred, the other thing I had for homework for last week was, you can change that. Yeah. You come back to us for a minute. Oh, there's a great one. So this is the Chinese calendar. So a lot of people don't know the astrology. The medicine wheel was also the astrological signs. And when you were born, when did you come out of mother's womb, or were you breached? How you were born is really important. And so some of us are water signs and some are air signs. And what year were you born? I was born the year of the dragon, so I'm a double Scorpio dragon. And so you can look at your birth date, and that's how the stars were aligned. And there used to be astronomy and astrology were one, but science, Isaac Newton and all the scientific method was introduced, and they kind of abandoned the witch and the pagan way. So the pagans were the earth-based spirituality. And they're aligned with the solstices and the equinox and the ley lines. So over in England, I was over there and I bought this book called The Ley Lines. And it made the point that the witches' dowels, they know where the water is. Let's call it witching. If you get when I drilled my well out of Bear Creek, I had a witcher come out. And he knew exactly where to drill because he held that stick out there, and it led him right to where to drill the water. Cool. And now the aquifer is earth. The water is in the earth. The water seeks the lowest level. It's humility. So in recovery, they say, we humbly ask this great spirit to remove these barriers to aliveness. That's the way I repurposed the 6th step. The 6th step is we became entirely ready to have spirit remove our barriers, or to our blocks, or their defects of characters, was the way they language it in the 12 steps. But we're not defective. We just have barriers to our actualizing our true potential, manifesting our essence. And that's the sacred tree. It says, if you live by the tree, it provides everything we need. It gives us food, it gives us shelter, the wood we can burn, the fruit we can eat. Its roots go deep into the earth. Its leaves touch the sky. So it's the connection between the mother and the father, the sacred tree. And it has many teachings. So a lot of the genealogy things, like what's your genealogy? Where'd you come from? Who was your father? Who was your mother? Who was their mother and who was their father? How many generations does it go back? So the natives taught me that astronomy, astrology, and your horoscopes are really important. They're information. They balance with the left side, which is the creative side of me that wants to I don't want to retire and travel the world. I've been everywhere I want to go. I've been to Machu Picchu. I've been to Austria, Vienna. I've been to London several times. But I asked my dad what's his favorite place because he loved to travel. And a miracle happened. They got me sober because my dad was a tyrant. And he said, if you take another drink, I'm going to kill you. So he was using force. And I was sure I was going to get drunk at my dad, but he went on a cruise and he met this guy in recovery. It was on that cruise ship, and he was at the bar and ordered a ginger ale, and they slipped him an alcoholic drink, and he got it right up to his mouth and smelled the alcohol, and he says, "Oh my God, I was just this close to taking a drink." And my dad says, "Well, what's going on?" And he told him his story, and my dad came back a changed man. He didn't say a thing to me, and that's what prompted me to, because I got drunk at my dad, you know, poor me, poor me. So that was the miracle that led to me asking for help, and the help came, and I've been able to carry this message to others. And so let's go back to, what time is it, by the way?
7:30.
7:30. I like to pause because I don't want to give you too much. Maybe ask. The other homework I had was the 5 sacred symbols. That's another teaching is the circle, the triangle, the spiral, the cross, and the square. So I ask you to rank those in order of your preference. Which one do you prefer most, down to the least? Did you do that one?
I did.
All right. So let's hear Leslie, who was here with me last night, and I'm so grateful she's here. She and Casey. Let me pause and take a drink of tea and let my sister talk a minute about your homework and what you did.
I just got a pen and I drew them out because I was trying not to think about it too much. And I just, I was trying really hard not to look them up too to see what they meant. So it came out as spiral, circle, triangle, cross, and square.
What first?
Spiral,
The spiral, okay. Second,
circle,
okay,
then triangle,
okay,
cross,
okay,
square.
okay. So I'll give Leslie the. Well, the first one of in your order of preference was the spiral. The spiral is change. That's where you think you are. And what led you to the change was the second one, which was the circle. The circle represents wholeness. So where you actually are is the third, which is a triangle, which is which I see that triangle as the TP, the pyramids, the Machu Picchu, all of those triangles are, in recovery they say, me, you, and spirit. That's the Trinity. It's what I want, what you want, and what spirit want for us. So the triangle is where you actually are. And the cross is relationships, which would be something maybe you've already mastered that. And the last one is square, which is structure. You don't want anybody to put you in a box. So the box is stability. It's like keep your own house in order. The box is a sacred symbol. That's the longhouse. The longhouse out here, they'd have all the families, the generations living in the longhouse. And they do their dances in the longhouses. And they're more of a square structure. But the teepees are the triangles. The triangles are like, I was talking to a NASA guy that did some x-rays from space, and he said those pyramids in Egypt have an inverted pyramid below them. And that's as above, so below. So the pyramid is me, you, and spirit, or a luna, as the Kogi say. What's the luna? What's the relationship want? Not what do I want, or what does he want? What does the relationship want? So that's the Trinity. It's me, you, and spirit. So and it'll change. Your preferences will change, but it's another tool that we use to find our way. To realize that change is really important to you, or that's where you think you are, but your work in unity has got you there. Where you actually are is in the third.
And what was the fourth?
The fourth was the cross.
And what's the cross?
The cross is relationships.
Oh. And what's the fourth position?
The square. It's what you.
Or no, but like, because so of the 5 spots, the order is significant.
Let me get that out. Just a second here. I've got it in here somewhere. I'm just looking at it. Drives me crazy when I can't find things. Oh, here it is. Okay. Okay. I'll give you this to take home, but this gives an explanation. So, the meanings of the symbols. According to this, the square mirrors building a foundation. Those attracted to the square are ready to build, to implement a plan, and to manifest ideas. They have a strong need for consistency, accountability, and completion. They value integrity, authenticity, responsibility, accountability, and they want results. That's the square. That's your least favorite. Okay. And then you had the equidistant cross is relationship. The plus sign, or the equidistant cross, symbolizes the process of relationship. We put that on, it's on full screen. Okay. Relationship, the cross, integration, and balance. This process carries a need for connection. They love collaborative work. They equate quality time spent with close friends and colleagues with trust and love. They fear loss, separation, and abandonment. So that's the cross.
And that's motivation. So position 4 is motivation.
Your motivation, right. So where you actually are is position 1. This, this is the most significant position. It shows your true current growth process. And so that's the triangle, which is goals, dreams, and visions. So the triangle represents self-discovery and revelation. They are focused on identifying, pursuing, and achieving goals. They have an innate gift of vision and need to follow their dreams. In midlife, they may need to revision or redream their purpose. That's beautiful. I'll give you that.
It's very cool. Neat.
So I'm hoping this recording is going okay with us. Okay, so it's what now? 8:15. Is that right?
7:38.
Oh, 7:38. Okay. Okay, so where do I go from here?
Well, I've got a question.
Okay.
You talk a lot about how you followed your hands, your heart into drum making. What was that process like for you?
Well, I can tell you exactly what it was like. So I was a fundraising consultant at the time, and I had my store as my fundraising office. And I had a secretary down there named Vicki. She helped me start Cedar Mountain Drum. She and Bob Reagan. And I spent 1980, let's see, it was 86, 7, and 8, traveling. I was in North Dakota a year raising $100 million for the Lutheran Church. And I lived in Fargo for a year, and that's when my daughter had run away from home, and I was trying to make amends for all my drinking days. That's part of restitution. So I invited her to come up and live with me, and because she dropped out of school, she didn't have even a high school diploma. So I got her GED and enrolled her in North Dakota State University. She turned her life around, and she's an Aquarius, a beautiful young woman, and I wasn't there for her, and so I did the best I could to make amends to her. But when I was down in Texas, I was saving a lot of money because I'd go to AA meetings and they'd say, well, you don't have to rent a place. Why don't you come and live at my place? So I had this relationship with this woman I met in AA that had one of those Elmira cook stoves in a stone house she lived in Granbury, Texas, I believe it was. And she made Texas beef jerky. So she'd get deer and salt them down and make jerky. And she rode horses. And she lived in this old stone cabin, and that Elmira stove cooked the whole thing, or heated it, and she cooked in it. And she was a cowgirl if there ever was one, and a lot of common sense. I learned a lot from her. And she moved to Canada because she didn't like people. So she started sweating up there with the Cree people. And they asked her name. She says, it's Shorty. So they looked at each other and said, Shorty. So they named her Woman Who Farts Close to Ground. So anyway, I was coming up, I was enrolled in this place on Mount Hood called Y East Healing Center, and it was run by Patricia Spradling and Chuck Spradling. And they had Don Moccasin there teaching. He was a Oglala, Lakota. And we did sweat lodges. We built altars. We made death masks. I learned so much from my 2 years there, and it culminated with the Vision Quest. And of course, I'd done a lot of preparation through the 12 steps. So I would have, before you went on the hill, we'd have you work those steps. And that was my contribution to the circle. Was first you got to take care of your own wreckage before you start taking care of anybody else's. So I decided to go on the hill, but part of me was saying, you're crazy as hell. You're going to go up there with no food or water for 4 days. I said, I'll die. So I went up there full of doubt. I said, I don't know if I can do this or not, but I went up there and I prayed for a vision, and I studied these gifts of these 4 directions over and over and over again, and I had to make 660 tobacco ties, one for each gift of these directions, which gave me balance. And I'd load that pipe that I carried, join it together, and I'd walk out to the west and I'd offer that pipe up, and I'd touch the earth, and I'd pray for one of those gifts. And I had 660 pair of ties around my arbor, and a buffalo robe that I wrapped myself up in at night to just, I walked and prayed until I couldn't pray anymore. And the first thing that happened was the mosquitoes came. And I said, I had a woman that told me that she went down to Peru and did an ayahuasca ceremony. And she was having a conversation with this man that couldn't speak any English. And she says, some of these plants, you don't need to talk, because we actually are clairvoyant. So she says she moved to Arkansas and had a dog, and that dog had ticks on it. Every time they go in the woods, it'd have ticks on it. So she says, I had to make a deal with the tick people. So she says, I made a prayer to the tick people and says, I promise not to kill you if you stay off my dog. So she said her dog didn't have any more ticks on her. So I remembered that story, and I went up there and I said, now I know I'm in your space, mosquitoes. And it is not my space, it's your space. And I'm up here to pray. I want to tell you my intention is to seek a vision. I'm lost and I need to find my way. And I pray that I can find that. And I walked out each direction and made a prayer for one of these gifts of these 4 directions. And the 3rd night, I thought I was going to die. Let's say the 3rd time's the hardest. That 3rd, the Trinity, that's the 3 beat and drumming 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That's like if your husband gets another lover on the side, you're apt to throw your relationship in chaos. So the Trinity is people like the 2, you know, boom, 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 boom. But you get that ba-da-da, 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 ba-da-da. That's the 3. So I had a dream up there on that hill of a little girl. Right up there's the image that Rose painted, a little girl rolling a hoop down the hill. And that hoop transformed into a bear. And And I didn't know what the hell it meant, but it was very clear. So I went down and asked the elders. I mean, I made it through that third day. I thought I was going to die. And you go through a corridor. It's like a rebirth. The fourth day, I said, my God. I went on the other side. It's like going from the third step to the fourth step of recovery. And then the fifth step, which is you admit to God, yourself, and to another human being, the exact nature of your barriers. And they said, well, the bear is your heart symbols, and the little girl is your feminine side, but it's also you as a little girl in your future. So I had a little girl right after that, named Jasmine Rose. The hoop was the drum, follow your heart. I love making drums because I learned to do it, and I was doing it as a hobby. Never thought to start a business. But when I was in Texas for a year, after that North Dakota, I went down to Texas for a year to raise money for my brother, who was a good Methodist down there. Retired colonel in the Army, 2 tours of Vietnam, and now he's got dementia. He's kind of 2 years older than my hero. He was a warrior. I was a lover. So he went to war. Thank God I didn't. I stayed here. I got my girlfriend pregnant, and we had a little girl. And that was the one that we were just 2 lost kids, both from abusive homes. But through the vision of follow your dream, follow the drum, I came down and I was living in Lake Oswego because I moved here with a school teacher. I wanted to make my dad proud, so I married a woman he'd be proud of. So she's a great gal. But I had a dream to follow the drum, and she sold her house in West Virginia and came with me out here, and we bought a house in Lake Oswego, Oregon, on Red Cedar Way. And I wanted to pursue play because the story's all intertwined, and it's all in my book. I've written us all down. But my sponsor started me, he said, write out your resentment letters. I had a blast doing that. And then he said, now strike out their names, put yours there. That's projection. That's the first Gestalt term. So I hate in you the qualities I hate in me. So introjection, which means here believe this, and it sits in our belly. All those beliefs sit in our belly. So as we grow up, we say, well, I want to do this, but I should do this. Now, where does the should come from? It comes from an introjected value that's really not yours. So in the ayahuasca ceremonies, you purge, you throw up all that crap and clear the belly so the energy can come up to your heart. But I couldn't. It took me 5 ayahuasca ceremonies before I could purge because I was holding on for dear life, terrified of letting go. But part of recovery is some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the results were nil until we let go absolutely. So I finally let go on that third day, and I went through that needle, that second rebirth, through the velvet cave, through the vagina, through Gaia, Mother Gaia. And I said, wow. I had realized the promises of AA by going up there and asking for Spirit's will for me, follow the drum. I came down and shared it with all my rich friends. I said, I had a vision to start a drum business. What do you think of that? They said, I think you're crazy. who in the hell's gonna buy drums? Boy Scouts? So I said, okay, but I got this vision, so I'm gonna do it. I went against the grain. I had my consulting business downstairs, and I started hanging drums on my wall. And it gradually, Vicky and Bob, this buddy of mine in recovery, he says, I'll tell you what, let's put $1,500 in the pot, and I'll work with you for 6 months, and let's see if this thing's got a chance to be successful. So we hired an artist to put designs on the drum, and he went up to Seattle and over on the coast and consigned them to these gift shops, and just to see if they'd sell. So at the end of 6 months, they start selling, and he says, well, I'll tell you what, I'll either buy you out or you buy me out. I'll give you a choice. I said, well, I'm gonna buy you out. So I reclaimed my company, and I made the decision to follow the drum, follow my heart. My doubt was up in the air all the time. But then I'll tell the story about Rising Sun coming to in my store and says, let's go to the mountain and drum. So I grabbed a drum. I had a woman watching the store at the time, and he says his medicine is don't doubt. So that's the first trust. Trust God, clean house, and do what you love. That's the short version of the 12 steps. If you're doing what you love, it ain't work. So I love to make drums, and I still do. I'm 84 years old, and sometimes I wake up and say, my God, I got to get the orders out. But today I got current. I'm current on all my orders, and since I asked Mandy when she's coming home, and she said, I'm not sure, but she'll be here. She makes the rattles, and she's a hard worker, and she's taught me so much. And so that's the story of that of the symbol of the bear, which on my website I have the story of the Heartline bear. It says, when we're abused, Grandmother Bear takes our spirit, our heart, and we don't get it back until we can prove that we can nurture and love ourselves. And when you start loving yourself, that essence can manifest towards others. But codependents don't have relationships, they take hostages. So codependence, I figured, was mother disease, because I was putting other people's needs above my own, not taking care of myself. It took a woman to teach me that, and my wife is the woman that taught me that, a Leo, a cat, and I'm a dog. So I realized AA says you don't have to like them, but you gotta love them. Because we're all from the Scar clan, and we're all here trying to heal, work together. And I think these classes are worth me doing. And I'm going to show up for 7 weeks. And I'm so grateful that I have some other people that did show up. I had a big following, but then they all went away. So I thought, uh-oh, do I give up? Nope. Keep going. If I was the only one here, I'd be teaching the class. Because down in the store, I sell books. One of the books I bought was Elaine Pagel's work of the lost gospels that the church decided not to put in the Bible, like the Gospel of Thomas. I was reading the Gospels of Thomas and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and all these books that were very similar to the New Testament. which was the teachings of Jesus, not the teachings of the Old Testament. But in Jewish mysticism, they say you have to learn the Old Testament before they'll give you the mystic teachings. So I had to go to 12 meetings, 12 years of daily AA meetings to really hear what the hell they said. Because I heard it and I heard it and I heard it, but I didn't really hear it. Like these people are saying the same damn stories over and over again. Well, then I got it. I said, oh, that's what they mean. The epiphany came. And it's, I said, AA gave me a great way to stay sober. I don't like to associate with people that drink. I prefer people in recovery. And there's a lot of people that you say, well, I'm not an alcoholic. Well, are you a work addict? Are you a sexaholic? Are you a gambler? You know, what addictions do you have? We're all from the Scar Clan. And so those 12 steps are for everyone. They came out of the Catholic Church. But Catholic, that word means universal. So I don't, in AA it says we neither endorse nor oppose any causes. So try to stay non-controversial. That's what they're trying to do, split the conservatives from the liberals. And that's two sides of one bird. We need both. If you get a board of directors, you want both and, not either or. So I think with the two-party system and the either or mentality of our current leaders, there's a big shift happening, and I'm so grateful that Ashley's here to help me. And my weakest link is technology, and I try to do it at my pace rather than, and it takes hearing it over and over again before you really get it. A lot of people say they want it, like when you get in recovery, oh, you have the two-steppers, the ones that get sober and then try to convert everybody else. But they kind of forget the clean-up steps and the face-up steps and the live-up steps, which is, you never quit doing that inventory. That's why we go in the sweat lodge, is to burn away all those beliefs I pick up when I'm not purifying myself. A lot of the natives would dust off every night. They'd sweat a little bit every night and let go of all the grief of the day so they can wake up with new eyes. So that's learning presence, being here now, Ram Dass. It's not, there's no future, there's nowhere to get to. It's one day at a time, one breath at a time. So the 12 steps and the Chakana and all those teachings are the cycle of a breath or a day. Say, in the morning I'm fresh. I've got the gifts of the East, spontaneity. That's a gift of the East. Joy, oh, that's a gift of the East. A love that does not know itself. That's flowing out of another gift of the North, which says freedom from love, freedom from knowledge, and freedom from hate. So that's what Rumi said, out beyond right and wrong is a place and I'll meet you there. So we're only as high as our lowest. We can't lock away our dark side. So all the mystical teachings say, love the one you're with, and that begins with you. So if somebody else is taking care of me, I don't take care of myself. So I had to learn to take care of myself and take loving care of myself, not just take care of myself in mind, body, spirit, and soul. I don't know what time it is.
It's 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, okay. Well, for all those that'll see this, we appreciate you being here. We're going to turn off the recording now, and before we go, let me make a prayer. Say, Grandfather, we called you in this meeting to let your will flow through us. Open our hearts, our minds. We pray that everyone that hears this, that you clean away the clutter in our lives and help us become hollow bones. Let your will flow through us. Let us work step 11. Not to seek to understand or to be understood, but to understand others. Give us the higher purpose in our lives. Keep us all safe until we gather again in circle. Aho. So that's, got any parting words, sister?
Just thank you.
Okay, how we get this thing? Stop recording. There we go.